It's 5 o'clock. I will call the December 11th, 2025 meeting of the Sumner County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Like the record showed, Mr. Harrison may be running late, but everyone else is present. We have approval of the October the 9th meeting minutes. Has everyone read those? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We have approval of the December 11th agenda. Are there any changes? We'll let the agenda stand as presented. I will enter the meeting materials into the record. The regular meeting presentation. The exhibit packet for this meeting and the zoning regulations for this meeting. And let the record show that all members are present. First item on our agenda is Lumen requesting a special exception to construct additional structures and operate an unmanned telecommunications facility at 5630 Highway 31W in Portland. Sydney?
So, thank you, Chairman. All right, as you mentioned, this is a telecommunications facility that has already been in place. It's otherwise known as like a boost site. You saw one of these probably about a year and a half ago, and it's a similar type thing. This use was there's already structures out there. We believe it was part of the city of Portland and some type of approval was granted through them, though they couldn't produce record of that. So we're going through this process just to make sure that it has the proper approvals on it before they expand the site. Again, similar to what you guys saw, I think, with Unity Fiber maybe a year or two ago. So that's what this request is. It is in the 3rd Commission voting district, and Lumen Communications is the applicant on this. They it came to us for approval of additional structures for the site already in place. You notice it's called a point of presence here, which is considered an essential services in our use classification. And the proposed structures that they're asking for are relatively small in size on a property that is 3 acres in the rural residential zoning district. All right, here's the public notice and an aerial of the existing site. And they've done a great job responding to staff requests to get additional information and what we've needed. So it's a very thorough application. So there's the special exception request, and of course where we referred them, we did try to pursue with the city of Portland to see about the grandfather status and everything like that, but ultimately we're here tonight because the city of Portland just couldn't find anything. This has been going on a while. Again, this is essentially what we call it as a telephone switching facility, which is an essential service. And it's allowable by special exception through the Board of Zoning Appeals. And here's where we know it's a community facility activity. They are to have 50 feet setback from any street or residential lot line. You will note here that there are existing structures on that north end of the property, 40 feet from the north property line, and fencing. And both the existing and the proposed fence kind of encroaches into that setback. So just wanted to note that for your reference there. A type 2 buffer yard shall be provided around the perimeter, and they do have buffers on the sides and rear of the property, and they have agreed to include additional landscaping, which is shown on their site plan on the front there. So this is the proposed concrete pad for future building, proposed shelter here, and a proposed shelter here. This is the structure I was talking about that was already closer to the property line, but they're not proposing any new structures go there. And this is the landscape plan that was provided to you. And this is the existing site. What they're proposing is back behind that. And I think we caught them on a good day there. All right. So the general requirements for a special exception is that it's so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so the public health, safety, and welfare is protected. It won't adversely affect other property in the area, conforms to the provisions of the resolution for the district, and is compatible with the surrounding area. And I'll flip back. I didn't really spend a lot of time on that aerial slide, but I just want to give you for reference the surrounding area. You can see there's some industrial type properties there and a lot of land. So just wanted to give you that for your reference. All right. And special exception in terms of the location and operation for public health and safety. The project will not be operated in a way, there's a little typo there, that will endanger the public health and safety and welfare. No adverse impacts to the area are anticipated. The BZA may impose landscaping to provide screening. The applicant has already submitted that, volunteered that with their submittal. And then it conforms to the provision of the resolution. The staff interpretation is that the item does appear to conform to the provisions of the county zoning resolution, and it appears that the use has been ongoing for many years, and this is an expansion of the existing use with additional structures. The special exception shall only be granted provided the board makes specific findings that it's compatible with the area. The proposed construction will be small buildings well separated from other structures and will meet the setback requirements. The property has good sight distance along Highway 31, and there are no safety issues anticipated. There's already existing structures there, and the property is currently utilized, so it does appear to be compatible. And then the next steps here, after receiving the BZA approval, then they'll go through the site plan approval with the small buildings. It could be done administratively, zoning compliance, land disturbance, and then, of course, the landscaping installed before codes will issue their final CO on it. The example motions are before you here. Number one, to find that it does meet the requirements for special exceptions and to approve a request for the special exception in order to construct additional structures and continue to operate a point of presence facility at 5630 Highway 31W in accordance with the submitted plans and the following conditions, which are A, site plan approval, B, construction in accordance with the submitted plans, and C, all permits received. Two, to find that the requirements for a special exception are not met and to deny the request for this special exception. And then three, to defer this item 1 month in order to obtain additional information.
This is a public hearing. Kevin Kruger, the applicant, is on one side of it. Do you have anything you need to add?
I represent Lumen, and everything Sydney said was spot on. Yeah, enjoyed working with you. I just need to bring your sign in. But if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this request? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Board, what's your wishes?
set beside the plat. The 3 acres was directly beside it.
I believe it was a vacant lot, but let's go take a look here. Yeah, it appears to be.
It's vacant, okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, for example, motion number 1 with A, B, and C.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll say.
We have a second. Mr. Conlon. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda, Sheila Kelly is requesting a special exception for a family subdivision pursuant to Chapter 14, Section 1411, subsection E6 of the Sumner County zoning resolution at 180 Circle Drive, Cottontown. Susan?
Sorry, thank you. All right, so you may remember when the county went through the rezoning where the rural parts of the county were changed to rural preservation with the 2.3 acre provision. At the time of that, the commission determined that there was going to be a little caveat for properties that are going to be subdivided for families. And so they created the family subdivision, requirement to allow the property to be subdivided in a way that would have been allowed under that previous rural residential zoning with the 40,000 square foot lots. And so they had a lot of provisions that were borrowed from Williamson County primarily that they put into the zoning resolution, and this is the first one to come before you. It has a 1-2 step for the approval process where it has to receive first a special exception from this body and then receive approval for the actual plat from the Planning Commission if the approval from this body is granted first. So that's what's before you tonight, and typically we would route somebody through the accessory dwelling unit process because it essentially accomplishes the same intent and purposes if you've got a family member, but this one's being pursued through this path. So here we go. The property owner is Sheila Kelly, and it is proposed to be subdivided with the other lot to go to her sister Kim Rowland and her spouse. The property is 4.24 acres in the Rural Preservation Zoning District, and the request is made pursuant to Chapter 14, Section 1411. That's the notice. And here is an aerial view of the property itself that's being proposed. Let's see, I wanted to kind of show you the greater subdivision that this area is in. This right here is the city of Gallatin. So it is very close to the city of Gallatin. Oh, I'm sorry, White House, I apologize there. And then you can see that the other properties in that neighborhood, this one is a little bit larger than the majority of them, but not grossly so. All right, so I just wanted you to see that just for reference. And this is the zoning application where they were directed down this process. And the special exception request, which I blew up in case you couldn't read there. This is from Ms. Kelly. She says, I'm 75 years old and need to have family nearby, so she's requesting that you allow a family subdivision for just 2 lots, one for the house that sits on the property and a separately deeded property where a new house will be built, as shown on the attached plot plan. So this is the plot plan. They have worked diligently to get us the information. It's a surveyor that's a little bit new to our processes, and also this is a new type request. So they have worked hard to try to get us everything that we have asked for. This is the plot plan. You can see the existing house is here, and the proposed house is right here. And hopefully we'll see. Yeah, that's a little bit clearer there. This is my attempt to overlay it. And so you can kind of see how it would sit back off of the street like so. And that is the proposed plat that will be presented before the planning commission. Again, the existing driveway was on their neighbor's property, and if this is approved, we're having to clean that up as part of this process. These are the proposed elevations. Again, the approval of the special exception is not dependent on this, but part of it is that it does have to fit within the character of the existing subdivision and area that it's in. So they wanted to show you the proposed elevations. And here is Circle Drive. The house will sit approximately back here. And just a couple other views that we have for you. And you can see the area that it's going to be proposed in is relatively close to the neighboring property there. All right, so the conditions that were outlined in the resolution are a little bit interesting, so we'll go through them together here. The lot size had to meet that rural residential 40,000 square feet that was in place at the time that the zoning resolution was changed. The lot width is 100 feet on minor county roads, 150 feet on collector roads, and 200 feet on arterial. This is considered a minor road, but it's on a cul-de-sac. And the setbacks would follow those old rural residential. They have shown 50 feet on theirs. And then the road access standards contained must meet the subdivision requirements there. On a lot that is 4 acres, they could do two lots for that, and they're proposing 1. And then we have to have an affidavit basically saying that I'm the property owner, and this is going to a family member, so that has been signed and included with your packet. There must be a covenant restriction that says, and this is the one that is interesting, that it's to it prohibits its transfer to a non-immediate family member for a period of 15 years following the subdivision, unless the lot is subject to an involuntary transfer such as a foreclosure, death, judicial sale, condemnation, or bankruptcy. I find that one interesting for a lot of reasons, but there it is, and so that's what would be in the covenants and restrictions. And so then, upon the approval of the special exception, the subdivision plat may be submitted to the planning commission for their review. And that is what the zoning resolution says. In terms of, again, it's a special exception, so we look at the findings of fact that are given as guidance. And again, same thing that you hear at all the meetings, as it designed to be, we'll just go right ahead and get into them, located and proposed to be operated so the public health, safety, and welfare is protected. We had a note here that it appears to be designed and situated in a way that does not negatively impact the public health. The layout utilizes the existing road access and maintains a lot size consistent with rural residential. request doesn't appear to adversely affect property in the area and is consistent with neighboring properties. Conforms to all applicable provisions of the resolution for the district. It meets the zoning resolution provisions for rural residential, and the caveat was put in there. So we just put that statement in there that it appears to meet the provisions. Shall be located so as to be compatible with the surrounding area and provide safety to those using the facility. The proposed subdivision appears to be compatible with the surrounding area and does not pose additional safety concerns. Those are staff interpretations, and of course, you may find your own. And then, so the first one is to find that the county requirements for the special exceptions and family subdivisions are met, and to approve the request subject to planning commission approval of the final plat, recording of the final plat, and covenants and restrictions, and all permits must be obtained. The second is to deny the special exception request based on the finding that the county's requirements are not met. Or the third is to defer this for 1 month in order to obtain additional information.
Thank you, Sydney. We have some folks that have signed up to speak. Kenny and Stacy Summers. You can come forward, state your name.
Hello, I'm Kenny. This is my wife, Stacy.
There we go.
My name is Kenny Summers, and this is my wife, Stacy Summers. We've come to actually oppose this opportunity here. This land I grew up on. This was my parents' land before they sold it to these Miss Shelley Kelly. Sheila Kelly, I'm sorry. We ended up buying a part of the land from my parents back in 2016, so 9 years ago this December. We were actually considering subdividing it up for my brother to come live on the property that is actually being mentioned, and we were told that it was never to be subdivided again. Due to the fact that it's being landlocked and the lack of easements. I did find the restrictions, the original restrictions of the subdivision that was actually made back in 1986. The number 1 was all tracts in the Honey Run Creek Farms shall be used for single family residence or agricultural purposes, limited to horses and cattle only. And it should not be permissible to build more than 1 single dwelling on any tract unless approved by 60% of the owners in writing.
Mr. Summer, I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Because we, as an elected body, cannot enforce private restrictions in any way.
Okay.
That's between you and your neighbor, or the owners of the subdivision, or the owners of it generally that can enforce it.
Okay. Yeah, I was unaware of that.
So I didn't want you to.
No, that's fine.
Be aware of that.
That's fine. But like I did say, I mean, back when we were considering actually subdividing the property ourselves, we were told that this property that's in question is landlocked and with lack of easement, so therefore we were unable to do it. And with that being said, I don't think, just because there's new owners coming in, that rules should change.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Sheila Kelly.
I was here, she struggled.
This is Nathan Gregory. I have some hearing loss, so he may have to interpret something. We applied for this particular zoning regulations, but because my sister has 2 sons and I have 2 sons, and for us, this was the simplest way to, upon our death, to pass on to our children, without just clear title without having to worry about cleaning up any deeds and any of that sort of thing. So, with respect to Kenny and Stacy's feelings, which I do respect them, this is, the way this property lays out is, it's not going to interfere with their privacy, my privacy. There's so much land distance between each one that we will all still have privacy. So I don't think it's going to affect anyone in a negative way. Our goal is to be good neighbors, and so that's where we're at on that. And I mean, we worked real hard to comply with everything that was asked us, and all the regulations and everything, and it's been quite expensive just to get here to this point. So we appreciate that, you know, your really sincere consideration on what we're asking to do.
I have one question. Do you live on the property?
I do.
Thank you. Does anyone else care to speak to this request?
Can I make a statement? I didn't sign up. I will say that we found the restrictions that were mentioned, you know, in the survey process, and that was never recorded as a plat, never recorded as a subdivision. It was a subdivision, but it's never recorded as such. This part of the parcel was never recorded in that subdivision. And it's from a survey of Ray Cole. I'm sure you're familiar with Ray. And then also on the cul-de-sac, the general regulation is 30 foot around the cul-de-sac for entrance. And this property actually had 74 foot on the cul-de-sac. So just mention.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. And Sydney, I've got a couple of questions. First, one observation I have is that you provided us the survey, the subdivision. I couldn't read it. It was illegible. I don't feel comfortable approving something that I can't read. I mean, the things were blurred. I mean, it just really was not a good quality drawing. The other thing, and this is more concern that I have, and that is enforcement of this county restriction. Now, based on a comment I made a moment ago, if it's put in as a deed restriction, it's unenforceable by Sumner County. And I've been told that. And the attorney has agreed with me. I think the only way, if there is a way, the only way it can be enforced, if it was printed directly on the plat as an approval of that subdivision, part of the approval, and part of our approval should be approved. But it needs to be on the face of the plat as a condition of approval rather than a restriction. Like I say, the only other thing, and this is first, I don't feel comfortable with this right now, because I can't read it. That's just my opinion. I'm 145. Lord, how do you feel? What are you going to do? I may suggest that we take a little time and study this. We've never seen it, county's never seen it. And look at it, maybe defer it for 30 days. For us all to be able to familiarize ourselves with what the county is trying to do to help these folks.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to defer for the 30 days until we can.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
a second by Mr. Harris. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. We'll take it up in January. Next item on the agenda, Kenneth McCullough is requesting a variance from the county requirements contained in Chapter 11, Section 1101, subsection H of the Sumner County zoning resolution related to road access. Property is located in 0 South Tunnel Road and Gallup, Kathy Young, shall present this.
Yes, sir, thank you, Chairman. This request is a variance request, which is brought to us by the property owner, Kenneth McCullough. It is a request for a variance from road access requirements in order to obtain building permits for a single-family residence. This property contains 23.2 acres and is zoned RP. The request is made pursuant to Chapter 14, Section 1404, subsection H of the county zoning resolution. This is the public notice that was posted in the Gallatin News and in the Hendersonville Standard. And then this is an aerial photo of the property on the right, showing it in relation to the adjoining properties, and the property, the photo to the left shows the entrance of that property. This is the submitted plot plan, and it shows the lot in its entirety. We have a zoomed in portion at the road showing that at South Tunnel Road, there is a 40.15 foot road frontage access. And it does narrow, if you'll notice, going in to, it shows 40 feet, possibly a little smaller at the smallest point. This is the zoning compliance application that was submitted, requesting information as to whether this is a buildable lot. We directed them to realize that Chapter 11, Section 1101 of the zoning resolution states that for any lot to be built upon, it must have 50 feet of physical road frontage or enhancement. So they then submitted this variance application requesting a road width access variance, and given the fact that they have 40.15 feet, they're essentially requesting a variance of 9.85 feet. Okay, and this is from the county zoning resolution, Chapter 11, Section 1101H, that states no building shall be erected on a lot or other tract of land that does not abut at least one public street for at least 50 feet. Such strip of land shall not be reduced to less than 50 feet in width for its entire length. So to summarize this request, this road access requirement for a tract of land over 5 acres is the 50 feet. The access provided for this public street is 40.14 feet, and it does narrow a bit to approximately 35 at the narrowest point. The property owner is wishing to ensure that this is a buildable lot for a single family dwelling. And in order to do that, they must either possess the road frontage or get a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. As this lot does not possess that road frontage, this is their avenue to potentially request that. These are photos of the public notice sign posted on the property. disposed of the property. And this is the state law, Tennessee Code annotated 137109, that states that the Board of Zoning Appeals has the power to grant variances. And when the board determines if they will grant a variance, they are to look at 8 specific standards for variances. And I'll highlight each of those. Hopefully I can read them. The particular physical, surrounding, shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience, the strict stipulation of this resolution. Staff interpretation is that the particular conditions of this lot, to include the specifics of the road access width, make conformity with the zoning resolution impossible. The board must also find that the conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. Staff interpretation is that these conditions would not apply across the Rural Preservation Zoning District and are unique to this lot. Number 3 states that the variance will not authorize activities in a zone district other than those permitted by the resolution. There are no unpermitted uses proposed. This is for a single-family dwelling. Financial returns only shall not be considered as a basis for granting a variance. Staff interpreted that financial returns are not the primary issue at hand. The alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property after the effective date of this resolution. The difficulty here was not created by this property owner. Number 6 states that the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land, building, or structure. Staff interprets that the requested variance appears to be the minimum that will allow the property to be utilized in the manner proposed. Number 7 states that the granting of this variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to any other property or improvements in the area in which the property is located. No evidence has been provided indicating that the granting of this would be detrimental to the public. And the proposed variance will not impair adequate supply of light, air to adjacent property, nor endanger the public safety. And staff found that that is correct. No evidence has been found. The other requirements for a variance, plot plan is required. One was submitted for this application, and this is not a use variance. Example motions. Number 1, to find that all county variance standards were met to approve a request for a road access with variance in accordance with the submitted plot plan for 0 South Tunnel Road, Gallatin, contingent upon A, all permits being obtained, or 2, to deny a request for a road access with variance, or 3, to defer this item for 1 month in order to obtain additional information.
Thank you, Kathy. We have 2 folks that are signed up. Ms. Potter. If you push the button and it's there you go.
Okay. I represent Mr. McCullough as his realtor. We listed the property a couple months ago and a lot of interest immediately. It's a gorgeous piece of land. And immediately every realtor voiced their concern about the road frontage. And because of that, we've not gotten an offer. So I reached out to Josh before he left the planning department and asked him for some guidance, told him the story. And he suggested we go this avenue, so that's why we're here today. The property was inherited. His father passed away in 2001. His sister is here who owns one of the adjoining, I think it's about an acre lot next door to that building, the white building sits on. So it was divided somewhere between 99 and 2001 where she split that white, as they reference it, the microwave tower. It used to have some kind of cell tower there at some point. It's the one to the right. It has a little white building that I believe AT&T rents from her because it's their property, their improvements on her property, but I could be wrong there. So we would like to see if we could get a variance to allow the buyer, the new owner, assurance that they will be able to build on the lot.
Thank you.
I think that was all I had to say on that one. Oh, I did get one call. I don't know if they got any calls at their office. I did get one call from a realtor. Did not write her name down. She lives somewhere in the area. She got several calls from the neighbors. She actually called me the day after I put the sign in the yard. And she asked me what was going on, and I explained it to her, and she was, thank you so much. We were so worried about what was going to happen there. That would be awesome. I said, please let your neighbors that called you know. And she said, definitely. So that was a positive phone call I got on it, and that was the only phone call I got.
Thank you.
Do you have anything?
No.
All right, thank you guys. Do I need to push this button again?
This is a public hearing. Does anyone else care to speak to this request? Seeing no one will close the public hearing. I've got a question or two for staff. What documentation has been submitted about this, or deeds, or creation of the property, or anything about the inheritance, a will?
So, Mr. Chairman, it appears that this property was created by an executor's deed through a will in probate court in 2002. And from what we can tell, in 1985, this property was part of a larger piece of land that was about 42.1 acres.
Okay. I took a few minutes today and pulled the deed from 1985. It was from the clerk of master. And both that deed called for 41 acres. The deed that you're referring to called for less than that. What happened to it?
I would have to defer to the landowner, I believe.
I think that, and let me, I've got a little bit of history on, not that property, but on easements. And it was during the 80s, the county required 50 feet for an easement. They did not specify who could use that easement. That did not require ownership by me. I specifically remember dividing some property in Hendersonville where I split the ownership 3 ways and gave a blanket easement, and that met the letter of the law. But in the late 80s, the county amended the regulations and required every property to have either 50 feet of frontage or 50-foot easement, but no more than one property could be served by an easement, 50 feet wide. So my question on this is, when did those two changes take place in the county? And does this request meet those guidelines?
I believe that request was done in 1980, if I can recall what Mr. Sutter said. It just, that's what's resonating, I think, on June or July 1980. And no, it does not. It appears this was an illegal creation by the previous property owner, which I believe was a family member passed down.
But I'm also remembering, and if it's created by the courts, that supersedes the county law. And I don't have an answer for that here either. I want to help I hope the man never build on his property or something. But I don't want to see us create a precedent that, if anybody had a 10-foot access, they could get onto the property. I think it's incumbent on the requestor to provide that documentation to us rather than us researching. We're not hired to do that. All we can do is judge by what we can give them. And again, I hate to do it, but I'm going to suggest that we request that documentation from the requester, and I can prove that we can, well, prove the origin lead or the 40-foot road front. Discussion. Well,
I think that makes sense to me to defer it. I just want to ask the chair one question. You're asking for the property owner to provide something regarding court creating this, if that might supersede that we could consider next time. Is that right?
yes, sir. Because if they, well, I just remember years and years ago that to settle an estate, when they probated the will, it created tracts A, B, and C, which in effect would grant that access. And that's happened in every county I've worked in or seen.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I make the motion to defer it for 30 days.
We have a motion to defer for 30 days. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second, Mr. King. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. But I asked the requester to, they'll have to do a little digging, but we need it.
Sure. So just to restate that, this is being deferred for some research to be done into how this was created. And the access was done by Chancery Court. And so you would want to pursue hiring a surveyor to do that research and provide that back to us so that it can be heard in January. So it'll need to be noticed again, and then come back before this body. But you would want to just provide, if the court ruled that did it by will, then there's grounds that allows it to be approved, the variance to be approved by this body. So you just want to do a little bit more homework.
Was there anything required with the 41 you mentioned becoming 23? Did you want something on that too?
Was there anything with the 41 becoming 23? Hopefully they'll be able to provide a little bit more historical information when they do that request.
Okay.
And we can just get all that question answered.
Thank you.
Certainly, thank you.
Reasonable comparison. Something happened with some acres that could have had road frontage with it.
Right, right. I don't know if you heard the chairman, he said the reason for that question was because something happened to those 14 acres that may have had the road frontage with it. And so figuring out doing that historical research may help answer the questions and provide a basis for approval of the variance through this body.
Board and city, Kathy, the one thing is that they need to get the information back to you in a timely manner for us to be able to hear in 30 days. But if he don't come, then it'll just have to be deferred again. Okay, next item on the agenda. Chris Savell, I hope I pronounced it correctly, is requesting a variance of Sumner County, Chapter 4, Section 404 of the zoning resolution related to an encroachment of a private dwelling, primary dwelling, into the required setback located at 112 Truett's Private Trail in Cottontown.
Hey, thank you, sir. Yes, so this property is on rural preservation zone piece of property and is accessed off of Truett's Private Trail, which is here. The property, I mentioned 5.44 acres. It's a new home that has been constructed. Applicants requesting the variance pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 404, from the front setback line requirements from 50 feet to 34.5 feet for a primary dwelling. A little bit more into the specifics of it as we go on here. But this is the public notice. This is the subject property. And you can see here the private trail. And that's a greater perspective of the area. This is Maxwell Branch here. This is Wilkinson here. And hey, that didn't show up well on your screen, but you can see it's a pretty large piece of property that cuts over a little bit on the axis. This was the zoning compliance that was submitted to us with the house shown at 50 feet and maybe 90 feet. I need to get some glasses, I believe, there, but and then it was resubmitted because through the process it was determined that the property was built in a location. Let's see if I can show it better. That was built in a location that was different from what was on the zoning compliance. So that resubmittal shows the proposed new setbacks there and directed them to this body for the variance request. And I'm hoping, there we go, this is what I'm looking for here. All right, so I want to explain a little bit about what has happened here, and I hope that this is a unique situation, but when we're talking about front setbacks, there's a lot of different things that come into play. It's the zoning resolution defines it off of the where the access is. And historically, when there is a private drive, it can be looked at as this parallel public right-of-way. Additionally, they have frontage here. Had they accessed it here, this would be the front, and this would be the rear. Had we determined that it would follow the public right-of-way, this would have been the front, and this would have been the rear, with this being a side setback of 20 feet. What was determined on this, which the zoning compliance met all setback requirements, so it wasn't really evaluated until it came to our attention that the house that was constructed was too close to the property line, and so then the question became, where's the setbacks, what's the front, all of that. So the front setback was determined to be off of this private drive because that's where the access is. And you can see that the house encroaches, as of the concrete pad. We can't do anything about what is over here in terms of that concrete pad through, permitting of encroachment on something that's, not their property. But what we're here to address is the construction of the house itself. And again, hopefully I can explain this in a way that makes sense. I'm going to do my best. So had the driveway come off of Maxwell Branch and cross the creek, then this plot plan submitted by the surveyor would be accurate, with it being 50 feet here and then 30 feet on the rear, and this would be in compliance. Now, having them go back and construct their access at this point over that creek with the bridge up here and then around somehow is a big ask, so they wanted to pursue it through this body before doing that. Another way that we could have looked at it, again, would be if Wilkinson, which is the public road, was the front, that would be 50 feet here. The sides would then be 20, and then the rear would be 30. And so a large chunk of the house at that point would be needing to be back before this body for a variance. Additionally, what that means is that the accessory structures can be 5 feet off of this property line here. So what they're requesting, the way we're looking at it, is this access here is 50 feet. So they're requesting the variance that we noted before you for the front setback, and then yeah, I think that kind of covers it there. And then, oh, there we go, good. All right, so then that essentially is going to be 34.5 feet to that front corner of the garage there. You can just see it, just a small portion of it would be within that setback. This is the zoning resolution, 50-foot front setback. This is where all that information is located. And then this is where we define the frontage is determined by the access point. So the request before you is from 50 feet to 34.5 feet for the front setback. And then this is where I put all of that into words. And so if you want me to go back through it, I can, but I'll spare you that unless you have any questions about it. So here's kind of the options that they have. They could derive their access from Maxwell Branch because there's a large creek, and Truett's private trail would become the rear. We went through that. The additional access could be gained off Wilkinson. They'd still be back before you before the variance. Or the house could be torn and rebuilt to meet setback requirements. I made it up here that given the alternatives that encroach further into the neighboring properties, the hardship with the location of the soils area, the steep topography in the rear of the home, and the creek crossing, the applicant's requesting a variance from the current front yard setback to relieve the hardship and to allow the house to remain. So here you can see Truett's private trail. And that's a different property. Here's the subject property. And you can begin to see the drop off here. And I believe this is the side of the house where the septic area is. So if they had scooted it further back, then they would have disturbed that soils area. And that is an image we took, and this would have been if they crossed the Maxwell Branch. You can't really see it very well, but that is a nice little body of water that they'd have to build a bridge over and then climb a hill. And this is the access off of Wilkinson. And the applicant did provide a clearer picture of the rear of the property, which I put into the final draft. But what I have pulled up here is the preliminary, the draft of the presentation rather than the final version. And I can go through my computer and get the right slide and presentation for you that shows you that rear. I can send you, I can show you on my phone what that rear looks like if you wanted to see the topography. But that's my error, or they may have that with them as well if you want to see what the rear topography challenges was. They were claiming as the variance. So the state grounds for the variance says that there has to be wildness, topography of the areas, that or a special, extraordinary, and exceptional situation or condition of such a piece of property, and I believe this one does fall definitely clearly into that category with some of the uniqueness in how we got to this point. We do not, to the best of my knowledge, we have not seen a house built that far into the front setback. And so hopefully we will not see that again. We're not trying to set precedents here. I do believe this to be a unique situation, exceptional and extraordinary. But again, on top of that, they do have some topography challenges, some septic areas, some creeks to cross, and things like that, that would make building it off of Maxwell Branch to change the setbacks to be where the property is conforming difficult. These conditions do not apply generically across the rural preservation zoning district and are unique to this lot. There's not any unpermitted uses proposed. Financial returns are not the primary issue. The difficulty was not created by the property owner, and the requested variance does appear to meet the minimum that would allow the property to be utilized in the manner proposed for a single-family dwelling. No evidence has been proposed that it is going to be detrimental to the public or to light, air, all of that. The plot plan has been provided and not a use variance. So it just is really up to the determination of this board to find that the county variance standards are met and approve a request for the variance to the front yard setback, to deny the request, or to defer for a month in order to obtain additional information.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. I've had one person sign up, Natalie Sapel.
I have my builder with me, David Yandy as well.
The thing about it is, gentlemen, that this easement that attaches to the front of this property is going to one other property, and that's owned by their aunt, okay? The next thing, this park area has only got one side. It don't have a duplicate. So there's no way to move it any further back because they call for a curtain frame, which Mr. Brandon knows it's got to be 15 foot off the park area, okay, in order for them to pass the area. So it does not have a duplicate. It only has one park area. So you can't encroach any on it, and we're as close to it as you could possibly get. So, like I say, this easement's 50 foot wide, but it's going to their aunt's property, which she's going to build on it. And that's the dead end of it. Does that make sense? So, actually, the 50 foot would come in place somewhat. I know it's no man's land, I understand that, but it still can be considered a little bit. We're asking for a 15 foot variance. And just on one corner, we're 70-something feet deep on the other corner. I think it's 73 feet deep. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What we pray that y'all would look at this is trying to help out these people. And we ask that you consider it, look at it, and make a decision that would be favorable to that place.
It's also a private easement, as you know, but, I mean, myself, we have the part of the deed when we bought the property along with there's 4 parcels there together. 3 of the 4 parcels have a requirement to maintain and deal with that private drive. Even when I went to the road commission to pull up a driveway permit, they basically came back to me in a couple weeks' time and told me, ma'am, we're going to refund your check. We don't need you to request a driveway because you're on a private drive and there's no requirement for that. You may put your driveway wherever you like. I mean, we are at the tail end of an 8-month build, and this just now comes up after every inspection. So, I mean, the footings have been inspected, and it never came up. So, I just ask that you grant us 15 feet on one corner of my house, please, so we do not have to tear it down.
My understanding is if anyone on the board has questions on the request. I have one. If you tried to buy 15 feet off of track one,
The 15 feet is in the easement, sir, it's
I
not even,
understand.
yeah.
Have you tried to, actually, what you're showing,
If you look
off
at
of the property line, aren't you? Sydney?
the dash line there, if you can, I don't know if it's easy to understand it, but the dash line, if you can see it there, that runs to the far right side of lot 1, is actually the left side of the easement, if you
My
will.
question is, have you tried to buy 15 feet off track one?
No, sir,
Because the 50 feet that they're showing, the easement's on the 50 feet. If you buy 15 feet, a triangle shape, 15 feet,
sir, track 1 already gave up an entire easement of 50 feet for their property, and they already have a very narrow lot. That gentleman is
so the
also,
answer to the question is no.
no, sir, I did
I did
not.
not go try it.
No, sir, I hadn't even, because I know that gentleman is also trying to, he's got a very narrow lot as it is, a very narrow long lot, but no, sir, I did not, you're right,
Thank you.
yes.
Does anyone else care to speak to this request? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. What's the will of the board?
Do we have any more pictures of, sorry, do we have any more pictures of the grade? It was on the hill. That's it. There's some look.
Discussion? Motion.
I'll move we adopt I'll say.
We have a motion. Did I hear a second?
Yes.
Motion and a second, to tackle motion number 1. Discussion. All in favor say aye. All the block sign.
I don't think it's Mike's on.
Motion carried. Motion carried. So approved.
Approved. God bless you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Sumner County staff requesting direction, if you will, for 1123 Maxwell Branch Road. Staff.
Sir, thank you. All right, so this is a special question which is permissible from the state pursuant to Chapter 14, Section 1404, subsection D of the county zoning resolution. From time to time, we have a question that requires a little bit of a quasi-judicial role of the Board of Zoning Appeals, where we're asking for a determination different pieces of information, and so we put it before the board to make the determination. And this is one such thing. This is not a rezoning. This is a request that is made from the staff to the board, and it is not approval of a additional special exception or anything like that. It is simply for clarification for the next steps. In this case, the question is whether or not the use of the property at 1123 Maxwell Branch Road meets the requirements of minor home-based business that was issued for this property owner, or whether the special exception is needed from this body for a major home-based business. Again, it's not requesting that special exception, it is just asking for clarification as to which category the use of the property falls into. The property is 6.8 acres, and it's owned by, I believe it goes by Michael Cox and his wife Courtney in the Rural Preservation Zoning District. And so, just to give you a little history on that, a zoning compliance came to staff, and all this was in your packet, but I just want to clarify it. The zoning compliance came to staff requesting a new home in a 3,600 square foot, or is that right? Oh, 6,000. Anyway, we'll go look at that. Anyway, a large garage, and so it's customary for us to ask the use of that garage. And the contractor stated that it was just for personal use. And so what we do to follow that up is just ask for a business affidavit saying, no, this is not a business. At which time the property owner said, no, I do have a business, and it's for the storage of my equipment related to that business. And so we had them fill out a revised zoning compliance form with the business summary to provide us with that information. So at that time, the staff looked at it and said, hey, this looks like it potentially could fall into the major home-based business. Had a conversation with the applicant where they said, no, we feel like it meets minor. So we sent them the regulations for both and said, hey, take a look at this. And if you can meet the minor, here's the minor. If you can meet the major, you've got to come for a special exception from the Board of Zoning Appeals. And so at that time, the property owner said, no, this complies within a minor home, and submitted that application. And so they moved forward through the process, and the building permits were issued for the construction of the new home and for the garage. And I believe that was back in May. And then since that time, we've received some complaints from an adjoining property owner stating that the business activity on the property was not consistent with what's allowed in the minor home-based business requirements. And the owner states, no, it is. And so, given the complexities of this item, the staff is referring it to the BZA as a special question. So, this is where the staff is requesting this, and it was noticed in the paper. This is the piece of property the use is being conducted on, and the proposed, we'll get there, all right. So that was taken in January of 2025, and then the proposed home is here, and the proposed garage is back here off of the property. And this is the original, building where you can see again, it's just a request for a detached garage. And the owner said, no, it is for business use. Here's the minor home-based application, stating that they met the conditions of the minor home-based business. And that's just for general provisions of home-based businesses, but I just want to kind of get into some of the specifics for the minor home-based business. I won't read them all to you because they're not all really things that come into play in this request, but the minor home-based business can have no more than one non-resident employee at one time. structure. The home-based business is limited to the parking or storing of one business vehicle on the premises, shall not be in the front yard. And then minor home-based businesses do not have more than 2 customer visits a day, and outdoor storage of any material in connection with the home-based business, with the exception of one business vehicle, is not permitted. The major home-based business, and here's the difference here, cannot have more than 3 employees, and then they can have 2 vehicles on the premise, again, not on the front yard. And then if you want to allow more than 500 square feet through this body, then you may do so. And let's see, there you are. And not more than 10 customer visits per day. And then I believe the rest of that doesn't really pertain here. So this is the elevations of the home and of the shop, or sorry, garage. And then these are for pictures that staff took. We do not, there were some unpermitted business complaints that we received, and we included what we had received before the meeting in your packet. Before the presentation went out in your packet. There were a couple of more that were submitted after the presentation went out that were included at your tables tonight. We don't include photos from neighbors, as what's entered into the packet is entered in as submitted as evidence, and so we are only submitting materials that staff observes. And so this is what staff had observed when we went out onto the site. And you can see, again, it's a little difficult to get perspective here, but here's the home. And then this is where there's some burn that's going. And let's see, I apologize. The business, I don't know, I kind of flashed through it really quickly, is basically a tree service business. And so the complaints were essentially that there's a lot of burning and that there's additional vehicles beyond the one that's allowed with minor home that are on the site. And so the applicant is here to speak to any, to address any questions that you may have. And then, let's see, there's the special question that's before this body. And it's essentially, is the use of the property consistent with the minor home-based business requirements? And if not, then does the property owner need to submit a special exception for the major home-based business? And is there any additional direction that you would like to give to staff?
We have several people that have signed up to speak. Aaron Trask.
Hello, my name is Aaron. I live on the adjoining property to him. So the reason that I'm here today is the home business as it is now has been somewhat disruptive. I mean, he's in the process of building and everything. And I wanted to express my concern that I didn't want it from what could be a minor now, which I don't think it is, to a major. It would be very intrusive on the neighborhood. The neighborhood does not have anything like this going on. And I wanted to voice in my public forum that we did not want that in the neighborhood, or I don't want that in the neighborhood. He would be the only business, and it's a tree and excavation business. So he has a lot of equipment there. It's more than one vehicle. And we're working with him to stop that, and then for it to get more,
Thank you.
Janet Jones.
Hello, my name's Janet Jones. I am a real estate broker here my name's Janet Jones. I'm a real estate broker here in Sumner County for 20 plus years, and I happen to be the selling agent for 1137 Maxwell Branch and 1129 Maxwell Branch, which are two tracts that adjoin the Cox property. 1129 was also known as Lot 20, which was the tract that was just here. They were the first to build out there. What he didn't mention is they also share a driveway. The tracts have an easement off of this driveway, which they purchased in 2021, and they put in the driveway, and where Mr. Cox built in 2023. So the use of this business is detrimental to that as well. When I'm showing this property to clients, the first thing that comes in is what is and what is allowed on property. That is the major factor when I'm showing property to people. They want to know what can happen and what can't happen. The CCRs on this were recorded in 2021 and have not changed. I went back and looked at all the listings, and the same CCRs were recorded, which only allow a home base and a home base. Huh? Okay. So if we can't hear that, let's see, going into the other consideration that I would think that this panel should consider, this business that they're doing is burning, smoldering of wood, chips, whatever. Two of the landowners that adjoin this property, one of them, due to COVID, has lost a lung, has major respiratory issues. Another one of them has actually had their whole nose reconstructed this year and is, for no better words, being held hostage in the house because they can't be around smoke due to infection, due to just health. So I would really urge this panel to take into consideration the well-being of all of the residents in this area and having the knowledge of how this could affect their well-being. That, you know, there could be some type of neglect there if it was approved for this business to go on. You know, the Shoemakes Estates, the people that bought out there, they bought picking and choosing this type of lifestyle to have privacy, peace, fresh air, good quality of life, and allowing any type of variance out there other than a home-based business would make that not possible. Thank you.
Todd Bushman.
Good evening. Is this I'm an adjacent property owner. I bought the old farmstead, 1139. It's on the corner of this property. So I make sure a lot line with the easement to the property. No, on the other side. So I've got the barns and the old, facing Maxwell Branch. I don't currently live there, but I plan to live there. My wife is a lung transplant patient. Eventually I want to build a retirement home there. But more importantly, you know, when my wife's health certainly plays a role in my decision to be here. But from what I've seen and the pictures that I've seen of what's going on this property far outweigh what we've seen tonight. You know, we talked about precedents earlier in several of the other discussions. You know, you take a neighborhood that has 500 to $1 million homes on it, that makes up a good tax base for Cottontown and Sumner County, and you allow one person to set a precedence, whether it's in a minor or major business, and I don't think a major business activity should ever be considered here, but take a guy like this that comes to your neighborhood and starts burning all day long and filling the air, I don't know what other environmental impact, there's a stream right on the left side of this property as well. I can't imagine this occurring. From an ethical or moral standpoint, for the property owners that are certainly physically affected, but otherwise impact across this 200-acre farm development. And these people didn't come here spend $1 million to deal with anything like this, nor should they have to. And certainly on my 3.5 acres or whatever have you, I would love to breathe clean air and not hear adjacently what would go on. Instead of a nice peaceful creek or stream, we're going to have some commercial type business going on. And I don't see there's any ethical or moral basis that this can be permitted. So I appreciate it.
Gregory, can't read your last name.
Good evening. My name is Greg, and I'm a neighbor of the parcel in question. I just want to express my appreciation for the ZBA for your time to consider this question and really the role that you play in defining and enforcing the benefit and well-being of our community. We agree with the county's initial determination that the business activity on this parcel exceeds what is allowed by the parameters of the minor home-based business. And as a concerned neighbor, I'd like to express my opposition to the question of considering a major home-based business. There's been multiple variances or non-compliance over the last time that we've lived there, which is about 18 months. There's been non-compliance with the initial stated description of the business activity on the minor home-based business permit application. There's been non-compliance with meeting the requirements of the minor home-based business application, as well as the general provisions that are required for any type of home-based business. And aside from the non-compliance issues, the allowance of a major home business is not aligned with the broader intent of the rural preservation zone in which the parcel exists. And obviously I'm very concerned about the precedent that this would set moving forward and impact for our neighborhood. And finally, we're asking that the county enforce the requirements that are outlined both with general provisions of all types of home-based businesses, as well as the requirements that are attached to the minor home-based business. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. David Cox. David?
Yeah, that's fine. Good evening, everyone. I do have something for y'all too. There's 5 board members, is that correct? Thank you. In that packet, there's 4 pieces of paper stapled together. As one of my neighbors, that I've not met before, that this was right next to me, Greg, stated that there is a creek in this property. That creek is Maxwell Branch Road. Y'all spoke about it earlier. There were some pictures on there. I don't think that y'all seen any pictures on here of that. What we have faced since we purchased this property in 2023 is the property erodes heavily by the creek. Like, we're losing feet by the year. Not just me, but the neighbor, Chad and Nicole in front of me, and I'm sure the neighbors behind me, Corey and Aaron, are also losing that. If you'll see in that photo there, that's all I was looking about. The creek is not in the pictures. So the burning that has commenced was tree waste, not right there. That pile right there is ash pile and chip pile, and that one log that's on that right pile, that's from the creek. That is to burn for ash. These packets will explain to you what that process is. Right up around the corner is some farmland, right there to the right. It's actually adjacent to the property. Can you go to the plat overview, please? The over here in these woods, on this side, that's an old farm. It isn't just an old farm, it's actually still a farm, it's a cattle farm. Up to the right, up around the corner, over around the bend, there's a bunch of farmers down through there. The cow manure and the heavily wooded area, all that stuff sheds into the creek, causing that water to become highly acidic, which has destroyed the crops and the grass and any kind of thing on the bank. It's killing the trees, they're uprooting into the creek, they're falling over, breaking, they're rotting and dying, and the grass is not growing. Okay. So the reason for the burning is the ash. The ash spread there, if you'll review this document, I mean, it's an easy Google search if you'd like to at some point in time. I know that seems irrelevant, but what I'm trying to state is the burning is not business related. I have a dump site that I go to. I have multiple ones actually that I dump most and almost all of my tree waste on. The stuff I brought to that property was to burn for ash for my property, not for my business. Second, the area that we're in, we have multiple farmers that do tobacco, and on the Sumner estates themselves, they do have barns, smoking barns for those tobaccos that farmer does have use in. And there's that. The other part of that is aside from the one time that I set that large pile on fire to get that ash, I haven't burned since then. What's happened is the chips got superheated nearby, and some of them are smoldering, and they're piling out smoldering. So once that goes out, there's not even going to be any more. The other thing is my house and my barn aren't actually finished being built yet. I have nowhere to put my stuff other than on this lot. And as soon as that's built, when the contractor, he was supposed to build it first, he hasn't, been having a lot of issues that, all my stuff will be in that barn. I have one business vehicle that is a tree trimming. It has a chipper, but that chipper is not a vehicle, it's a trailer. And the outline of the small business is you can only have one, what does it say, vehicle? Where's that at? It is one business vehicle. So that's not equipment, machinery, tools, that's nothing like that. That stuff will also all be stored in that 3,600 square foot barn. And the only thing we're doing on that property with my business is literally parking. That's it. I occasionally hook up the bush hog to my skid loader, especially when I first bought the lot and it was overgrown, to mow the lot. Sometimes I'll put it on the mini excavator to reach the edges of the creek that I can't, or up there on the front lot, I think it was 1132, where I can mow the bank, where I can't take my tractor to mow. If you'll go back to the pictures of the vehicles, I'll go into explanation about those vehicles, what they are. I can pull the insurance and the registration for these vehicles. They are not all business vehicles. The tree truck, obviously, the tree is a vehicle. The trailer to the right of that in the bottom left picture is a duck trailer. That is for my business. That 5500, I bought that for the motor to put into my red truck. It's a personal truck, my first truck, actually. It's a 2005 GMC 2500. That is currently a buddy of mine's house who's a mechanic. It's got a coolant leak. It's bleeding off the head. So got that truck to put that, take this motor, which is also an 05, and put it in. Can't do anything. I don't have a shop right now. Up there to the left on the silver tarp, there's a 2000 model. I think it's 2000 or 2001. It is a tool bed work truck. It's a gas motor. It belongs to Cedric Clemens, who's a good friend of mine who's like a brother. We served in Iraq together. I'm the closest thing he has to family. He rejoined the service after exiting it, and he got shipped off to Korea. On why he's gone, I sold on to his vehicle for him. I even put a new motor in that thing. There's some things that I had to put that together in, didn't do right, so got to figure out those issues too. I'm not made of money. I know this is an expensive area, but that is the explanation of those vehicles that are on the lot right now. That trailer to the right of that silver is a landscaping trailer for my tractor, and that's right there. You can't see it real good. Yeah, right next to the silver one. Yeah, it's a landscaping trailer. That's why I take my tractor over there to get it serviced. And the one to the right of that used to belong to the neighbor in front of me. I don't even use it. He was just moving and had nowhere to put it. I was like, yeah, I'll get it. I'll sell it to a guy or give it to somebody that needs it. I just ain't right across it. That's all my explanation. Mainly the burning. It's not business related. We live in the country, it is in the county. People have bonfires and that stuff will happen. That's something you definitely need to take into consideration when buying out in the country.
call the names that have signed up. If anyone else care to speak to this request? Yes, sir.
First off, I want to thank you for your service. My name's Kevin Hilton. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you for everybody. I'm a retired fireman, very proud of that, 26 years. Loved every minute of the job. My only complaint, honestly, is the constant burning. We've been dealing with the burning day in, day out, all night, 24/7, for at least 3 months. The smoke is so thick. I wish somebody had pictures of that. Maybe you have it. My smoke alarm goes off at night, in the middle of the night when I'm trying to sleep. I have a CPAP machine. I have asthma, COPD. I'm not proud of that, but that came with the job. So that's all I ask. The burning is terrible, and it's unattended. You know, fire department, I spent that whole career chasing unattended fires, day in and day out. So it shouldn't be allowed to happen. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have one thing to say. I'm also opposed to the major home business. I don't want that. I'm also opposed to the major home business. I don't want that. I did not file this complaint. This is obviously a complaint from a neighbor, and then this got to the county, and y'all requested this. It's from what I understand. That's all.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. Direction for our staff. Manner, business, or major business. That's our two choices. Based on what he said, what is it? Manner, major.
What's the building permits have been issued? What is that?
Sure, the building permits were issued for the 3,600 square foot garage and for the home. Both the home is under construction and the garage has not yet been constructed.
So we can have his permit to build his garage, whether he has a minor home-based business or not.
I think that's a question before, when they let him keep his
What is it?
garage.
But if he wasn't going to use it for business, he could still build his garage.
I kind of want to just add a little bit of clarity there. So typically, we try to catch it on the front end because the use of the structure does matter. And so if it's for a business use, as the applicant said, it's an association with a minor home-based business, then we'd have to get approval for that business versus if it's personal work or what have you.
Sydney, that's the 500 square foot limitation.
Sure, and we have not, to the best of my knowledge, ever requested the floor plans designating which piece is the 500 square feet and which is not. There's some things we just don't look that closely into.
So, I guess I'm going to follow up with a question too first. So, the
he's saying this is a business.
Yes, a minor home-based business, that it doesn't exceed the, one vehicle in association with the business use and not more than one employee at a time.
Yeah, so we've got, from the photos, it looks like more than one vehicle being used, but, sounds like you said it won't be. I'm just going by photos. Minor home-based business is more home-based, right? Are we saying this, detached garage is going to be used for
There's 3 employees.
minor 3, correct, employees. But I'm saying as far as the facility, it's not a home, it's building for the business, correct?
What we're asking to determine.
Well, the way we look at it is it a bona fide resident of the property? Are they living there versus is it entirely commercial and therefore then like a construction sales and services? So the fact that the bona fide resident lives there on the property is not really in terms of, is it the primary dwelling or the accessory structure or just, the property in general? Do they live there or not? Does that help clarify? Let's see, maybe in the general provisions.
So you're saying, you verified they live there? Is that what I'm saying?
And he does not yet. The house has been under
You
construction.
built a home.
That's correct.
He's going to be living on the site.
That's right.
And what was the other part of that? I'm sorry, I don't know if I followed past that. You were just saying,
Yeah, that's the general distinction between that or when we would have it receive approval as full scale, just like business. Some of them are special exceptions, like the, I want to call it pampered pooch, but where they don't live on the property, but they receive a special exception. The one I referenced was construction sales and services, which we've seen a couple of those come through, primarily special questions like, is it that or whatever, but we do, I'll stop there.
So I'm struggling with this, not because of the square footage of the space. I'm struggling with this because of the word smoke. And it says that there should be adverse smoke. And we're trying to identify how much smoke is too much smoke. So it's a little, I don't know if there's any way for us to identify that. Have we had information from us about how much burning is out there going on with this?
I just want to clarify, the actual burning, I don't think the county has any regulations against burning per se, so it would have to be, it would have to go on one of those categories she mentioned previously, to consider that.
Yeah, the one I was reading, can you go back to the one you had before? The category I was looking at was D, the last word.
Oh.
So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, and that's a fair question to ask, is this typical of what a private property owner would do to clean up their own leaves and limbs, and as he has said, create soil acidity for vegetation and help with the stream erosion control, or is it, hey, I'm bringing in all these materials from my business and burning it? We've had some similar ones come before this board for major home-based businesses with Tyree Springs and Jeremiah Sunshine, where they are bringing their disposal on property and burning that way. So that's really, that does come, is it in association with the business, or is it, for personal use?
So I'll boil this down first, I'm not going to say so, but the bottom line of this question is we're asking, is he bringing in material from off-site and burning it on the site? burning something that's on the site already, that's kind of more natural of what we see people doing. Is that true?
And that would be a determination to be made when he makes his application. And not for us to discuss tonight, because he's going to convince us whatever the application is turned in, that he's going to comply with whichever it is. So really the only thing that we are to determine based on what they've said, what the neighbors have said, and what the requester has said, what our staff has said, and we think it's major matter.
Yeah, to kind of summarize what Mr. Rainey and the staff attorney have said is the burning doesn't come into the minor or the major. It just says, you know, that really it's not supposed to be associated with a home-based business, and what we're looking at is it a home-based business? We know it is. It's just, is it a minor or is it a major?
But if you determine, whichever you determine, if you determine it's like a major business, this board can control the burning with a motion. If it's a minor business, this board can control the burning with a motion.
I think I agree with Jim on the tack that he's going. I don't believe we've got enough information to make a decision. I don't. My motion is that we can't make a decision.
Well,
We need more evidence.
that's really not giving the guidance to the staff that they're asking for. We're not approving them tonight.
No, I understand that.
But in our opinion, this is a major minor business. Now, what I heard a request of, he has one business vehicle on site. He has one employee, I think it's what I heard. Vehicles parked there. The neighbors are hearing the burning and seeing the burning and smelling the burning. The requester said that was unintentional, the chip pile caught on fire. I think that, we make up our mind based on the testimony before us, and not, and we go, where do we hear it again?
Well, if it was a minor home-based business, there would be no impact on the
I would agree, it would have very limited impact on the neighbors if it was minor. I would like to be a little bit more specific. I think we should defer this. I think we need to get a specific report from the business owner regarding each of those items, including frequency of burning, is material being hauled in, because it creates metrics that are clear, exact. I know there's some in here, I know there's indications through the testimony, but I would like to get a very specific, clear report so we can make a determination based on that. I do have an opinion of whether it is or not now, but it's not certain enough because I just don't see enough facts about, I do see facts about the equipment. I think the equipment probably fits within the square footage of the shed. I think the number of employees, I think many of these things do fall within a small business category, but I'm just not sure about burning.
I think you're exactly right, except for one part. I think that the staff should require this report, absolutely. But I trust the staff to be able to read that report and make the determination as to whether it's You need anything else on that topic from us? We have one last bit of business.
I did want
And
to
that is,
clarify, I apologize, I did want to clarify, when did you want to see this, that back to this board, or do you want it to just be a report to this board?
I think the will of the body, and y'all correct me now, is that whenever you get the report, analyze the report, then make your determination and bring a request. Now, you're gonna make the determination, is it major or minor, based on the report from the requester. And that's filling in all the blanks that have been questionable so far. And then y'all make the determination, and if we agree with you and approve it, we agree with you and approve it. If we disagree with you and don't approve it, we disagree with you, didn't approve it. But I think the report, is the best thing you got out of this. The requirement on for you and your staff to look at and have enough information where you can make a good decision. Last item on the agenda, we need to act on the approval of the 2026 submittal meeting calendar that was provided in your packet. We need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the 2026 calendar and meeting date. All in favor, say aye. Vote like sign. And City would also like to know that in November that they approved 3 items consent, or review items of this past month. I need one more motion.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. We are adjourned.